Hi Multipure Builders, it's Zach here on another Wednesday, and I wanted to show you guys some of the inside workings of the Aqualux system. We all know the Aqualux is the most advanced water filtration or purification system in the world. It can remove microbiological contaminants, bacteria and virus, and then all sorts of other contaminants, VOCs and heavy metals, lead, mercury, arsenic, PCBs, THMs, everything you can think of. But how does it work? Well, I'll show you kind of all the inside workings over here. So it starts with the bottom manifold, and this is pretty much the part that the filter plugs into. So it's really important because if you don't have a good interface or connection between the cartridge and the manifold, then you risk water not going through the filter, but just kind of going through or bypassing the filter. So we call that a bypass. So that's bad. So we want to make sure that the manifold is working correctly, or assembled correctly. There's a few parts to it. So you have the main body of the manifold, and then you have the inlet side, and then the exit side of the manifold. So the water comes in, goes into the housing, goes through the filter, comes out of the manifold, and then out this side right here. And here's kind of an example of how the Aqualux cartridge plugs into the manifold. So you can see here, you have the end of the cartridge right there, plugs into the manifold with two O-rings to make sure there's a good seal. So you have the water coming in, it floods into the pressure vessel, goes through the cartridge, exits the cartridge through the middle, and goes out of this end of the manifold right here. And what's very exciting about this manifold is built into it, you kind of see there's this chamber right here. Inside that is actually a little turbine, and as the water flows through it, that turbine spins, and that's how we can measure how much water has gone through the filter and what the flow rate is. And if there's any issues, or once you reach the capacity of the filter, or if the flow rate slows down too much, the system will automatically know that and make sure that you guys receive a new cartridge so the system's always working in optimum condition. So that's all the manifold. We're going to move on to the next phase. And that's connecting the manifold to the pressure vessel. So the pressure vessel is a 3/16 cylinder, and this is basically what holds the water and holds the pressure of the water. This can be installed below the sink, so it's tested to 300 psi, and then we also cycle test it at 150 psi back and forth. So all of that pressure is being held within this stainless steel. So you can see we mount on the manifold to the bottom of the vessel, and then on the manifold we mount on this circuit board, and this is what measures the magnetic pulse of the turbine going round and round with the water flowing through it, and that's how we can measure how much water is going through the pulses through the system. And then we also have a RFID antenna on there, and that's what authenticates the cartridge. So when you install the cartridge, we want to make sure that the cartridge is the correct one, and that it's not. We want to make sure that we're not using the cartridge beyond what its intended life is. So we authenticate that using the RFID antenna that's in that board as well. So after that all gets assembled together, it then goes into the outer shroud, which is the part that we all know and see as the Aqualux system. So this whole vessel assembly kind of flips over and fits into the shroud. One important aspect is we keep all of these parts wrapped up and protected while it's being assembled, because we don't want any debris to get onto the system. We want it to be in pristine condition and totally clean when it's received by the consumer. So we keep everything wrapped up as we are assembling it. So you can see all of these systems have already had the manifold put together, the board put on the manifold, and that placed onto the pressure vessel, and then that goes into the shroud. So after that, we'll just go to the other side. Just hold all these steps, just kind of progress down the aisles here. And you can see this is basically a fully assembled system. We have now the pressure vessel with the manifold inside, inserted into the shroud. And then we have the main circuit board assembled into this area with the batteries that go inside, and then the lid, which, as I mentioned, we keep it wrapped up, and that can just be placed right onto the system and that's what creates the final seal to keep all of the water in there. So that's basically a fully assembled system right there. Now, the question is, are we done at that point? No, we're not done, because we have to make sure that everything was assembled exactly the way it should be. So what we then do is take these fully assembled systems, and we again keep them all wrapped up, pristine condition, and we actually pressure test these. We fill them with water and we pressurize them to basically house pressure. So we don't want to overdo it and test it at like 5,000 psi, because that might damage something. But we test it to house pressure, and we just make sure that everything is sealed the way it should be. The manifold sealed into the pressure vessel, the top plate is sealed onto the top, and we basically keep it pressurized overnight, and come back the next morning. We have them all in these trays. So if there's any type of issue, we'll be able to tell that there was water from the tray, and that will alert us that that system had some type of issue. But believe me, it's not very often we see any type of issues. The design of the system is very robust. We don't, it's very rare for us to find a leak. But we want to be 100% sure that everything we ship out the door is going to be good. So we always test these systems, every single one, before we ship them out the door. So after that's done, we drain it, we dry it out, make sure everything's in good condition. And then eventually it finally gets packaged up over here. And then of course, it's a beautiful box. It gives you all of the features of the system. And what's most impressive about this box is this side right here, where it shows you all of the contaminants that this system is certified to remove. And again, this system is certified to remove more contaminants than any other drinking water system on the market. So we're very proud of that achievement. We're very proud of the assembly process and the quality control that we have, and the fact that we are able to manufacture the best drinking water system in the world. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys, and we look forward to showing you something else down the road. We'll see you later.